The Oliver family mansion in Chester, Pennsylvania, stands as a haunting relic of the past, its grand architecture now cloaked in an unsettling silence. The mansion, built in the late 1800s, was once a vibrant home filled with laughter and love. However, in 1898, everything changed when the Oliver family mysteriously vanished without a trace, leaving behind a legacy shrouded in mystery and intrigue. Locals still recall the tales passed down through generations the night the Olivers disappeared. It was a stormy evening when thunder cracked the sky and the rain pounded against the mansion's windows. Neighbors reported seeing the family gathered in the parlor, the flickering glow of candlelight casting long shadows on the walls. But when the storm subsided and dawn broke, the Oliver home stood eerily silent. The authorities launched a full investigation, scouring the grounds and searching the surrounding woods, but no evidence of the family was ever found. The disappearance became one of Chester's most baffling unsolved mysteries, and over the years, whispers of strange occurrences began to circulate. Some residents claim that on certain nights, when the moon hangs low and the air is thick with mist, the silhouettes of the Oliver family can be seen through the mansion's dusty windows. A flicker of movement, a glimpse of a shadowy figure always just out of reach, as if they were trapped between worlds. Stories of these apparitions spread, drawing thrill-seekers and paranormal enthusiasts to the mansion, hoping to catch a glimpse of the lost family. One such group of adventurers, eager to uncover the truth behind the legends, decided to spend the night in the mansion. Alex, a skeptic with a penchant for debunking myths, Emma, a true believer in the paranormal, and their friend Max, armed with cameras and recording equipment, approached the mansion as dusk fell. As they crossed the threshold, the heavy wooden door creaked ominously, revealing a dust-covered foyer adorned with faded portraits of the Oliver family. The air was stale, thick with the scent of mildew and time. Their flashlights danced across the walls, illuminating remnants of the family's life. A grand staircase spiraled upwards, and the parlor door hung ajar, inviting them to explore further. "Do you really think we'll see anything?" Alex scoffed, but the excitement in his voice betrayed his skepticism. "Definitely," Emma replied, her eyes wide with anticipation. "There's a reason people keep talking about this place. The Olivers are here. We just have to find them." As they ventured deeper into the mansion, they began to hear whispers, soft and unintelligible, echoing through the halls. The sound sent chills down their spines, and they exchanged wary glances. Max, ever the prankster, shrugged it off. "Probably just the wind," he said, but even he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The trio made their way to the parlor, where a large, ornate mirror hung above the fireplace. Emma felt drawn to it, an inexplicable urge to look closer. As she approached, the air grew colder, and she could see her breath misting in front of her. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught her eye. In the reflection, for just a heartbeat, she saw a figure standing behind her, an indistinct shadow with a familiar outline. Spinning around, she found nothing but the empty room. Heart racing, she turned back to the mirror, her pulse pounding in her ears. "Did you see that?" she gasped, her voice barely above a whisper. "What?" Alex asked, looking around, but Max just chuckled. "You're imagining things. Let's keep moving." They continued their exploration, passing through rooms filled with dust-covered furniture and faded wallpaper, each space whispering secrets of the past. The sounds of the house grew louder, the creaking of the floors, the distant thuds of something moving, and the ever-present feeling of being followed. As they climbed the grand staircase, Emma's heart began to race again. She felt a strange pull, as if something was guiding her to the attic. "I think we should check up there," she said, her voice filled with urgency. Alex hesitated but eventually nodded. "Fine, let's see what we find." They made their way to the attic, pushing open the heavy door that groaned in protest. Dust swirled in the air, illuminated by the shafts of moonlight streaming through the small, grimy windows. Old trunks and forgotten belongings littered the space, telling stories of the family's life before their disappearance. In the corner, Emma spotted an old rocking chair gently swaying, as if someone had just gotten up from it. Her breath caught in her throat. "Do you feel that?" she asked, glancing at her friends, who both looked equally unnerved. "I feel like we should get out of here," Alex said, his voice shaking slightly. Ignoring him, Emma stepped closer to the chair, entranced by the memories it seemed to hold. As she reached out to touch it, a chill ran down her spine, and she felt a presence behind her. Turning slowly, she found herself face to face with a woman in a long, flowing dress, her features blurred and indistinct. The apparition pointed toward a hidden trapdoor in the corner of the attic, and in that moment, Emma understood. "We have to find out what happened to them," she exclaimed, her voice filled with determination. Just then, a loud crash echoed through the attic, causing dust to rain down from the ceiling. "We need to leave now," Alex yelled, panic rising in his voice. But Emma, fueled by the vision she had just seen, rushed to the trapdoor. With a heave, she pulled it open, revealing a dark, narrow staircase descending into the unknown. "Come on, we can't turn back now." Max hesitated, glancing between the door and his friends, before finally joining Emma as they began their descent. Alex followed reluctantly, his heart pounding in his chest, each step echoing the uncertainty that filled the air. As they reached the bottom, they found themselves in a small, dimly lit room filled with old furniture and forgotten trinkets. The air was thick with dust, but it was also filled with something else, an energy that crackled with anticipation. In the center of the room stood an ornate table, and scattered across its surface were papers and photographs, some of which looked remarkably familiar. Emma's heart raced as she recognized the faces the Oliver family, smiling back at her, captured in moments of joy. "What is all this?" she whispered, her fingers brushing against the photographs. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The shadows in the room deepened, and a low whisper began to swirl around them. "Help us! Find us!" the voice echoed, haunting and desperate. Max glanced around nervously. "What do they want from us?" Before anyone could respond, the walls of the room began to tremble, and the photographs flickered as if caught in a breeze. Emma felt a pull toward a particular photo that showed the family standing in front of the mansion, their expressions bright and full of life. As she reached for it, a rush of memories flooded her mind, visions of the night the family had vanished, flashes of fear, panic, and ultimately, a profound silence. In that moment, Emma understood what they had to do. "They need us to remember them, to tell their story," she said, her voice steady. "That's why we're here." But before they could act, the room shook violently, and the shadows closed in around them, the whispers rising to a deafening roar. "You must choose. Save us or become part of us." The friends huddled together, fear gripping their hearts as the darkness surged forward, threatening to swallow them whole. "Emma!" Alex shouted, desperation in his voice. "What do we do?" "Focus on the light," Emma cried, remembering the stories of those who had come before them, who had tried to uncover the truth. "We can't let their fear consume us." With renewed determination, they joined hands, grounding themselves in the memories they had just uncovered. Together, they began to recite the names of the Oliver family, calling out into the darkness, echoing the lives that had once filled the mansion with laughter. The shadows recoiled, the oppressive force pushing against them weakening. The walls vibrated as the energy shifted, and the whispers turned into something more, a chorus of voices, rising to meet them. "Remember us, save us." As the light began to push through the darkness, they felt a warmth enveloping them, a sense of hope emerging from the depths of despair. The walls around them flickered, the room transforming, revealing glimpses of the past, the Olivers celebrating birthdays, sharing stories, living their lives. But just as they felt they were gaining ground, a chilling voice cut through the air, low and menacing. "You think you can erase the past? You will join them in darkness." The friends felt the pressure of the shadows pushing in on them again, and Emma realized that they had to fight, not just for the Olivers but for their own freedom as well. "We will not be afraid," she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. As the shadows lunged toward them, the light grew brighter, fueled by their courage and determination. They focused on the Oliver family, on the love and joy that once filled the mansion, channeling it into their shared strength. With one final push, the light burst forth, illuminating the entire room, and in that moment, they felt the weight of the darkness lift. The voices of the Olivers crescendoed, merging with the light, and as the last of the shadows dissipated, the room fell silent. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. In the aftermath, the friends stood in the now peaceful space, the remnants of the darkness fading away. They had done it. They had remembered the Olivers, and in doing so, had helped free their spirits from the clutches of fear. But as they turned to leave, Emma paused, glancing back at the photographs. A feeling of fulfillment washed over her, but she knew their journey wasn't over. We need to tell everyone what we've discovered. The Olivers deserve to be remembered. With renewed purpose, they climbed back up the stairs, emerging into the mansion's main hall. As they stepped outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the Oliver family mansion. And in that moment, they felt a sense of peace, knowing they had not only unraveled a mystery, but had also brought light to a story long hidden in darkness. The Olivers may have been lost to time, but they would no longer be forgotten. The friends vowed to share their tale, ensuring that the spirit of the Oliver family would live on, a testament to the power of memory and the enduring bonds of love. As the last remnants of the darkness faded, Emma, Alex, and Max stepped out of the Oliver family mansion, their hearts still racing from the encounter. The cool night air enveloped them, refreshing yet tinged with an electric energy, as if the very atmosphere was charged with the remnants of the battle they had just fought. "We did it," Emma whispered, still in awe of what they had accomplished. "We really did it." But even as she celebrated their victory, a nagging doubt crept into her mind. The mansion stood before them, tall and imposing, its windows now seemingly lifeless, but she couldn't shake the feeling that their adventure wasn't quite over. "What do we do now?" Alex asked, running a hand through his hair. "Do we just leave?" Max shrugged, glancing back at the mansion. "We need to get the story out. People deserve to know what really happened here. But we also need to make sure we're safe. Whatever that was, it might not be finished with us." Emma nodded, her resolve strengthening. "I think we should document everything we've experienced tonight. There's more to this story than just the family's disappearance. There's a reason the mansion has been left untouched. A reason the Olivers are still here." As they walked toward their car, the weight of their experience settled on them like a heavy cloak. They climbed into the vehicle, the air thick with unspoken thoughts. Emma pulled out her notebook and began to jot down notes, her pen moving quickly across the pages as she tried to capture every detail of their encounter. "What about the history of the mansion?" she suggested. "If we can uncover more about the family and what led to their disappearance, it could shed light on why they're still trapped here." "Right," Alex replied, starting the engine. "We should hit the library tomorrow. Maybe they have old records or news articles about the case." Max leaned back in his seat, arms crossed. "And what about the shadow we saw? What if it comes back? We're not safe just because we left the house." Emma looked up, a frown creasing her brow. "We can't let fear dictate our actions. The Olivers need our help, and we're the only ones who can give it to them. Besides, if we learned anything tonight, it's that we're stronger together." As they drove away, the mansion's silhouette receded into the distance, yet its presence lingered, heavy on their minds. When they arrived home, the trio gathered around Emma's kitchen table, spreading out their notes, photographs, and any artifacts they had collected from the mansion. "Okay, let's brainstorm," Emma said, her excitement rekindling as they began to connect the dots. "We know the family went missing in 1898, but why were they targeted? What could have led to their disappearance?" "The storm that night was pretty intense," Alex mused. "Maybe it contributed to their vanishing. People are superstitious, maybe the townsfolk thought they were cursed or something." Max chimed in, "Or perhaps it was more than just a storm. The way the house felt, it was like it held onto something dark. What if there was an event in the family's past that attracted that darkness?" Emma's mind raced as she considered the possibilities. What if we looked into the family's history, their background, any connections to the community, or anything unusual that might have happened before their disappearance? Maybe the locals knew more than they let on. With determination ignited, the trio delved into their research over the following days. They visited the Chester Public Library, sifting through dusty archives, old newspapers, and historical documents that told the tale of the Oliver family. The deeper they dug, the more fascinating and disturbing the story became. They discovered that the Olivers had been well-respected members of the community, known for their charitable deeds and kindness. However, there were whispers of jealousy and resentment among some townsfolk, particularly from those who felt overshadowed by the family's wealth and influence. As Emma read through articles, she found an unsettling pattern. There were reports of strange occurrences in the area leading up to the family's disappearance: cattle mutilations, unexplained fires, and even sightings of shadowy figures near the mansion. The townspeople, gripped by fear and suspicion, began to turn against the Olivers, spreading rumors and conspiracies that painted the family in an ominous light. One article stood out: a detailed account of a town meeting held just weeks before the Olivers vanished, where townsfolk expressed their fears about witchcraft and dark forces at play. The implications were chilling. Had the family been scapegoated for something beyond their control? "We need to find out more about that meeting," Emma said, her voice tinged with urgency. If there were accusations of witchcraft, it might explain why the spirits are still tied to the mansion. Alex nodded in agreement. If we can find records of that meeting, we might uncover the truth behind the family's disappearance. But we should also be cautious. People don't always take kindly to digging up old secrets. Over the next few weeks, the friends continued their investigation, uncovering more about the town's history and the Oliver family. As they pieced together the narrative, they began to sense a deeper connection to the mansion, a bond that went beyond mere curiosity. It was as if the house itself was calling to them, guiding them to uncover the truth. One fateful night, while reviewing their findings, Emma received a text from a local historian she had reached out to for help. "I found something," it read, along with an attachment. Her heart raced as she opened the file, revealing a faded photograph of the Oliver family standing in front of the mansion. But it was the background that caught her eye. In the image, near the edge of the property, a figure loomed, a shadowy silhouette that seemed out of place. "What the?" Emma murmured, showing the photo to Alex and Max, their eyes widening in disbelief. "What is that?" Max asked, leaning closer. "It looks like someone is standing there, but it's so faint. It's almost as if they were trying to hide," Emma replied, her mind racing with possibilities. Could it be a member of the community? Someone who didn't want the Olivers to thrive? Or maybe someone who had a personal vendetta against them? Alex speculated, his brow furrowed. "We need to figure out who this person is." Their investigation led them down a rabbit hole, connecting dots between the Olivers and several townspeople who had spoken out against them. As they unearthed more details, a chilling realization began to dawn on them. What if the darkness that had plagued the mansion wasn't just a consequence of the family's tragic fate? What if it was the manifestation of the town's collective guilt, their own fears and biases turned into something malevolent? Determined to confront the shadows of the past, the friends devised a plan. They would return to the mansion one last time, armed with the knowledge they had gained and the spirits of the Olivers guiding them. As they prepared for the night ahead, Emma felt a sense of purpose settle over her. They were not just searching for the truth. They were working to free the Oliver family's spirit from the chains of fear that had bound them for over a century. When the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a deep indigo sky above, they arrived at the mansion once more. The air felt charged, an electric anticipation coursing through them as they approached the front door. "Are you ready?" Alex asked, his voice steady but laced with a hint of apprehension. Emma nodded, her heart pounding with excitement and trepidation. "This time, we're not leaving until we've uncovered the truth." With a deep breath, they stepped inside, the familiar creak of the door echoing in the stillness. As they crossed the threshold, a shiver of recognition washed over them, and they felt the weight of the mansion's history pressing against them once more. "We need to find the attic again," Emma said, leading the way. "That's where we saw the vision of the shadow." As they ascended the staircase, the atmosphere shifted, the air thick with tension. They reached the attic door, and Emma hesitated for a moment, her hand resting on the doorknob. "Whatever happens in here, we face it together," she reminded her friends. With a nod from Alex and Max, she turned the knob and pushed the door open. The attic greeted them with its familiar dusty scent and the faint glow of moonlight filtering through the windows. But tonight, there was an undeniable energy in the air, a sense of purpose that filled the room. "Let's set up our equipment," Emma suggested, pulling out their cameras and audio recorders. "We need to document everything." As they worked, a sense of urgency filled the air. Emma felt the presence of the Olivers all around them, their spirits urging her to uncover the truth. She could almost hear their whispers, guiding her thoughts and fueling her determination. Once they were ready, Emma took a deep breath and spoke into the recorder. "If there's anyone here with us, we want to help you. We know the truth about what happened to you and your family. Please show us what we need to see." The silence hung heavy in the air, but as the seconds ticked by, a chill swept through the attic. The temperature dropped suddenly, and the shadows along the walls began to flicker, coalescing into familiar shapes. The friends exchanged nervous glances, their breath visible in the cold air. "It's happening," Max whispered, a mixture of excitement and fear in his voice. As the shadows flickered, they transformed into the figures of the Oliver family, their expressions a blend of sorrow and hope. Emma stepped forward, her heart racing. "We're here to help you," she called out, her voice steady despite the chilling atmosphere. The apparitions nodded, and the room pulsed with energy. A soft voice, ethereal and filled with longing, broke through the silence. "Help us remember our truth." Suddenly, a whirlwind of memories enveloped them, images flashing before their eyes, scenes of the family's life, their joys, but also the whispers of jealousy and fear from the townsfolk that led to their demise. The townspeople had accused the Olivers of witchcraft, scapegoating them for their own insecurities and grievances, which ultimately led to their tragic fate. As the realization dawned on Emma and her friends, the shadows began to swirl violently around them, a storm of emotions unleashed by the truth. "We can't let this darkness win," Emma shouted, determination flooding her voice. Holding hands tightly, they focused on the light that had initially freed them, channeling their collective energy into a single thought: the Olivers deserve to be remembered and honored. The shadows recoiled, and a bright light filled the attic, pushing back the darkness that had lingered for so long. With one final surge of energy, the apparitions of the Oliver family began to dissolve into the light, their faces now peaceful. "Thank you," the voice echoed softly, as the last remnants of the family's spirit faded away, leaving behind a warmth that filled the room. The friends stood in stunned silence, the atmosphere around them now calm and still. They had not only uncovered the truth of the Olivers, but had also helped release their spirits from the chains of fear and prejudice that had bound them for over a century. As they made their way back down the stairs, the mansion felt different, lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. Emma turned to her friends, a sense of triumph washing over her. "We did it. We set them free." With renewed purpose, they left the mansion, ready to share the Oliver family's story with the world, ensuring that the truth would finally shine a light on the darkness that had hidden it for far too long. The Olivers would be remembered not as victims, but as a family that had faced adversity and, through their courage, would inspire generations to come. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story.